Welcome to the Bookish Hour with your hosts, Sarah E. Burr and J.C. Kenney. And we are live. Hello, everyone. Happy New Year. Welcome to the Bookish Hour. I am one of your hosts, Sarah Burr.
And I am your other host, J.C. Kenney. And hey, Sarah, I believe it's time to get bookish.
New year, new books. So that's always a great way to start things off. It's a delight to be here at, 2023. We've made it. And thank you so much, everybody, for joining us for our first show of the year. We are delighted to be joined by the wonderful Lori Robbins, and
Woo!
we have a very special show for you this evening. So folks, thanks for joining in. Make sure you're logged into the YouTube chat as we go through the hour. Feel free to pop in with any questions that you have for Lori, and we're here to have fun. So Lori, why don't you go ahead and just tell our audience a little bit about yourself to get things started, and then we will dive into all things bookish.
Okay, thanks so much for having me on the show. I'm really excited about being here. So I'm a former dancer, and it's a very short career. So that took about 10 years. I then became an English teacher, and I now write full-time. I write 2 series. One of them is the Pointe mystery series, and it takes place in a professional ballet company. And my other series, the first book, is coming out this spring. And those are the masterclass mysteries, and they're academic mysteries. So they take place in a school, and I have an English teacher who is the protagonist and who solves crime using clues from the books that she teaches and that she loves. So that's where we are right now.
That is the fact that your series are both so reflective of your own experiences in life, I think is really cool, especially since, at least when it comes to dancing, like that's not something that anybody can do. So I'm really excited to learn more about your heroine and kind of understand like how Leah came to be a crime-solving ballerina.
Yes, well, it doesn't sound like an intuitive choice for a ballerina to be a crime-solving or an amateur detective, but the world itself is, it's filled with inherent drama. It's extremely competitive, and there's a lot of pressure. And there's the pressure of time, because most dancers have a very short career, and there aren't a lot of options beyond that in the dance world. So the level of competition and the fact that dancers are also competing against themselves puts them in a very, almost always in some kind of critical motion. So I actually made a deliberate choice to not have my protagonist be an ingenue who's going to make it and be a star at the end. She's actually in a much more fragile position. She's on the wrong side of 30. Her knees are injured. She's fighting to keep her place, to keep her perch, and that's the setup for the first book, and it sort of continues in that vein. So it turned out to be a great setting.
For sure. The drama is like unending. Yeah. And what you said about, making sure that, Leah has something to fight for. And I think that really comes across in how she inserts herself in the mystery. And I think, JC, you and I have talked about this before, about having a sleuth who is convincingly getting involved with a murder mystery. Like, what's the driving force here? And I think for Leah, the situation that she is in, especially where she's kind of like fighting to keep her place in the American Ballet Company, that it it really works together nicely. And you're, as an audience member, as a reader, you're just along for the ride. And it's like, oh, I get why she's doing this.
Yes. Well, it's interesting that you said that, because in book 4, now she does have a romantic interest, and that's the homicide detective who is assigned to the case, and they have a somewhat fraught on again, off again relationship, but they do get together at some point. I don't want to give anything away. By book 4, she is actually at the behest of the department investigating threats, and I move her to Broadway. She's about to debut on Broadway. I know, very exciting. That's gonna happen in May. But so I do want to, not that these books are realistic in the sense that most of us are never going to come across a murder investigation. So that's in, but I did want a higher level of plausibility for an amateur sleuth. So her connection with the police department is now drawing her into an investigation that goes down a much darker path than where anyone really expected it to be. So that's how I'm getting around the murder a year in rather.
Well, no, that's a really good point, because your setting takes place in New York City, but the world that Leah lives in the American Ballet Company is like very small. And you're right, like all these people dying repeatedly. It's like, is this place safe? Like, how long are they going to keep this place open? But no, that sounds like such a great way to kind of keep Leah's involvement afoot.
Yes, and it's so interesting that you said that, because yes, even though it is in New York City, her world is actually smaller than, for example, your small towns.
Mm-hmm.
Have a lot of people who can come in and out, but her world really is very much more circumscribed. So yes, I was kind of excited to put her in a different place and give her a different challenge. So we'll see what happens.
So and one of the things that I was really struck with, I mean, early on, you really in the first book, which is Murder in First Position. Here it's I've just got it on my paperwhite, so it doesn't look that great, but it's here. We immediately are presented with how, I don't want to say brutal, but how tough the life of a professional dancer is, physically, not just, mentally. I think it's easy for folks who aren't familiar with ballet or professional dance to, we get these caricatures in our heads of, you have the diva and then you have the handsome man and things like that. But, the picture you drew for us at the very beginning, talking about, just everything from the warm-ups to things that need to be done and the aching muscles and the joints and things like that. Would you mind telling us a little bit? Obviously, you spent time as a dancer. What is it like, as you pull back the curtain for us?
Yeah, a few people have mentioned that. It was part of the world building. It was part of making it realistic. And one of the things that I liked is that my fellow dancers and former dancers have said yes, because for me, I'm sure like a lawyer who watches a legal drama, or, an FBI agent who watches a show on the FBI, you don't want to just make your audience who knows something about it just.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen. It is such a big part of it. I think that the physicality of it was central to the world building. And, you could get into the shower and just drops of water on your feet hurt. And I wanted to bring that forward because I don't think most people understand it. I don't know anyone who doesn't suffer from, at this point, arthritic joints. Everyone is suffering from it. So, I mean, by the time you get to my age, and it's definitely a consequence of that. Sometimes I hope I don't overdo it, because I'm always saying, oh, it's so much more painful to walk downstairs than upstairs, because every day I walk downstairs and I think to myself, oh, I prefer to walk upstairs. That is very much a part of it. And also, the issues about weight and about food. I think I start the fourth book by saying something about her, like what some people might consider to be a borderline eating disorder. So that world normalizes behavior that outsiders don't know about.
And I think that's one of the things that is your books in this series in particular really do such a great job through the traditional mystery, cozy mystery genre of introducing us to a world most of us aren't familiar with. And it's just, I tip my hat to you, because it's fascinating, it's different. And like you said, yes, it's set in New York, but it's set in a little teeny tiny bubble within New York. So anyway, like I said, I just the realism that you bring to it is just amazing.
And I think another aspect of Leah's personality that really helps her be relatable is that she knows that these behaviors are extreme. And I think that, at least for a mainstream audience, that is also really helpful, because it humanizes a dancer who, we're watching them and it's like, oh, like they're these perfect beings that are able to move so fluidly and look so perfect. But she's very conscious of what she has to do to be that way. And I think especially in today's kind of climate where, body positivity and all of this stuff, that she's really good at reminding people, like, this isn't normal.
Yes. And that's a fine line to walk, actually.
I'm sure it could be really tricky.
It was, I had to be careful, and I actually made some changes because of the whole body positivity movement, that it wouldn't, I made it part of that world, and limited to that, because it is part of that world. And to ignore it would be to leave out something that was really, that was very important. And one of the things, when she does go on Broadway, and this is true, Broadway dancers they're very fit and they're lean and everything else, but they're not like ballerinas.
Mm-hmm.
Now, can you talk about that a little bit more? What exactly do you mean by that?
They don't have to be down to the bone thin. They can just be skinny.
Okay.
The ballet world is something that is a law to itself, and there has been movement lately to kind of expand that, but it's still a dancer whom I will not name, with New York City Ballet, it just left in the last year and just said, I don't want that anymore. Mm-hmm. I try to make people understand you have a fat clause in your contract, so you could lose your job if you gain weight. That's pretty powerful motivation. Mm-hmm. And so that's the kind of thing that I wanted people that I sort of integrate into the book, so that people understand it. And it's not just some random quirk. It's not some little, personality trait that belongs to her. It's in her contract. Mm-hmm. So I think that helps people understand the world, and I think it helps draw them in. And I also think it makes the characters more sympathetic.
Sorry, Lori.
Yeah.
I just wanted the kind of the difference of the worlds that Leah inhabits, because she has her life at the ballet, but then she kind of has the life outside with her mother and her friends, and that brings such a kind of levity to the experience, because what JC was mentioning, where it's a cutthroat world to be a part of, but there's still like such a sense of lightness and joy, and like the passion that Leah has for dancing that really comes out when she's with her group of friends, or the choreographers of crime, as you call them. And so I'm hoping that you can share a little bit about that side of Leah's life as well.
Yes, actually, it's I'm much funnier on the page than I am in person, and I'm beginning to wonder if I can write a book that isn't rather humorous, because all of that seems to come out for me, for better or for worse. But yes, she has a sense of humor about herself and the world outside of her. She does not lose that perspective, and she has plenty of, she's got a lot of, I think, rather humorous foils. Her mother is hilariously funny. I bring an aunt in. I wrote a short story about Leah. And for some reason, I gave her an aunt, and I liked her so much in the short story that I put her in the third book.
Nice.
I know. Well, that's kind of the charm of short stories. You can try something out. Mm-hmm. But yes, I mean, the books are funny, and which is funny because where is the humor in a murder mystery? And yet we have them all over. So it's a balance, of course, but my books definitely skew light, very light, in terms of the tone. I don't shy away from darker things, but that's not the focus at all. Even though I'm going to try. I've decided. To try. Yes, in my future, I have I'm thinking of writing a thriller. So I may ask you back here next year for some very different kind of a book, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fabulous. And I guess that's one of the things I think it's important for us to mention here is that, yes, ballet is a very intense, competitive world, but it's also beautiful. And it really is. I mean, the joy that, is brought to audiences and viewers is just, and the beauty is something that really is, I mean, there's nothing like it in the world.
I agree. And I also think that for the three of us as writers, or anyone who pursues something that's difficult, there's a real, I don't even want to say charm. There's something that draws us into something that's difficult. It is the fascination with trying to be perfect. And all of the good parts of that, and just wanting to do the best that you can. And then, of course, there's stabbing your rival in the back, which I would not recommend. It definitely could happen. So there's that side of it as well. Yeah, I think that any of the arts probably share that. They probably have that in common, where you're just always trying to get to the next level. Mm-hmm. And that's a good place to be as a person, I think.
I would definitely say that's true in the writing world, but I don't think that we're stabbing each other in the back, as we're very much lifting each other up, which thank goodness, because otherwise, like, I could not handle the world of ballet for several reasons, but just like that constant like drive is very, you feel for Leah that it's just like, oh gosh, she works so hard.
Right. Yes, even though, I mean, a writing conference, you cannot tell me that would not be a fantastic setting for a murder.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah,
that's the fiction side of it. We all support each other, but we do make our living fictionally killing people. Mm-hmm. So I don't know about you, but I'm always thinking to myself, I was hanging decorations outside my house, and I thought to myself, well, if not my husband, but someone else's husband, what an interesting way to kill your wife. Does everyone think this way? Probably not. But I know I'm always looking for an interesting way to knock somebody off.
I don't think I made this confession live on the internet, so now is my opportunity. A little over a year ago, my wife and I were at a wedding. My niece was getting married, and so we're sitting there in the audience, and the wedding's about 10 minutes just away from starting, and folks are just kind of coming in. And so I'm just kind of sitting, walking around, and my wife, I'm not walking around, I'm sitting looking around, and my wife kind of leans over and it's like, so what are you looking at? I just kind of decide, should I be honest? And I finally decide to be honest. And I tell her, well, I'm looking at all these people and deciding which one of these people are going to be murdered tonight. So she just said, you've got a dark sense of humor there.
I know, but you're not alone. I mean, I don't know, for some reason lately I've not read, but seen various murder mysteries on TV where like a murder happens at a wedding.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, you have an open bar and a lot of tension. So I guess in some sense it makes sense, but yeah. I think I would pass on that setting.
Yeah. No, I'm not going to go with that one, but
I have my guilty pleasure in the cozy mystery genre is reading about murders at weddings. Like that, when I see a book that's like, oh, it takes place at a wedding, I have no idea why. And I've definitely had the same. I've been at a wedding, and it was at a beautiful country club, and there was this gorgeous balcony, and I was like, oh my gosh, that would be such a great balcony for somebody to plunge from. And people around me are like, what? It's like, do we need to worry about you? So I think that must be a hazard of having our brains wired the way they are.
It definitely is, because I'm always thinking about pushing someone off a balcony. I don't really go for, I've never used a gun for because my criminals, my bad guys, like my protagonist, they're amateurs. So I don't have a serial killer or somebody who is who's someone, a professional because my criminal is also an amateur, I haven't used any firearms. So that, to me, there's nothing like a well-placed balcony to knock somebody off. Yes, very convenient.
And that's a perfect segue. I want to take a minute to do our shout out to folks who have checked in with us. Mark, Farmhouse Reader, DHB, Regina. Thank you all for hanging with us and checking in. And Mark just wanted to mention that, quote, we as fans want to see these characters get married. And for that to happen, we need there to be a murder. Therefore, wedding murder mysteries. So there we go.
Makes sense.
Well, and I think it's one of those things that it's the dichotomy that is inherent in the whodunit. You think of a ballet theater, a troupe of these amazing professionals, or Sarah, like with yours, you've got these small, fun little communities of nice folks, and then something awful happens. And that is that, oh my goodness, and that leads to the whole investigation part. So I guess, Lori, that kind of begs the question, how did you get started writing mysteries?
I think I just loved reading them. And on some level, almost every book is a mystery. You have to read it through the end to find out what happens. I'm also a huge fan of puzzles. I just like puzzles, and the challenge of unraveling a puzzle, laying down the clues, and was very appealing to me. I didn't really think my first book could have gone in several different directions, and I gave it to my husband, actually, who said, I feel like you've got 3 different books here, and this was a while ago. Which one do you want to write? It could be this, it could be like a straight up novel, or it could be a mystery. And without a doubt, I knew that's where I wanted to go. So it's what I love to read them, but I absolutely love writing them for all of those reasons. Also, something else, there isn't a lot of justice and clarity in the world we live in. And I think that murder mysteries, at least mine, and then yours actually also, they give that to us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Chaos erupts and breaks apart the world that our characters live in. But by the end, we repair it. We bring it back together. We serve up some measure of justice. And I think that is not just appealing to me. I think it's why the genre overall is so appealing. It's human nature to want that. We give it to them. And so
I think that's a really beautiful way of putting it, because
Yeah.
I was having I often think, like, there is a lot of turmoil in our everyday lives. And it's like, why do I write about murder? And I got to things like, yes, there is a murder component, but at the end of the day, I'm writing about people who are just willing to put everything on the line to do what's right and to bring justice. And I that's how I choose to view it, rather than dredging up like, oh, like another murder mystery, another person's dead, but it's like, no, another chance for somebody to do what's right. And I think that it's a really important thing for us to like hold true to ourselves, because we are bringing joy into the world through it, even though the topic might be dark at times.
yes, and again, we have amateur sleuths, and so somehow we make it plausible that an ordinary person, for me, who on the beginning of the book would not dream of being involved in anything like that, doesn't want to be involved in anything like that, and by the end of the book just finds courage, strength, a skill that he or she didn't know that they had. And that's also kind of inspiring, and it's also fun because it takes us on a journey. So for the person who in the beginning of the book is like, good luck with all that, eventually has to find it in herself to rise to that challenge, to be as brave as we all wish we were. And that, again, to me, that is a lot of the fun of an amateur sleuth. I don't need a ballistics expert.
Yeah, like Sarah said, I want to echo, so well said, Lori, and especially your to your point about the amateur sleuth being willing to step up, because I know for myself, it's like I might write about it, but I think in real life, I don't know that I would have the guts to start poking around and actually try to figure something out. It's one of those, I think I'd like to think that, yeah, if something happened, I would, but yeah, I gotta be honest, I don't know if I'd have the guts to do it. So kudos to the amateur sleuths who do.
My character often says, truthfully, I'm a coward. I'm afraid of a million things. I don't like rodents and things like anything that has more legs than I do. So she has this whole list of things that she's afraid of, and that's who we are as well. And but by the end, of course, because the stakes are high,
I think that's the key. That I think if the stakes are the right stakes,
yes,
everybody's capable of searching for the truth. So I think you have it in you, JC.
Well, it's we'll see. Well, hopefully we won't see. Hopefully,
yes, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And just to kind of throw things out there for our audience members right now, we are at our 8:30-ish mark, and so we want to make sure that we get everybody ready for our wonderful giveaway this week. We do have a message in the chat that kind of is a very nice segue to this as well, from Farmhouse Reader, who said, we have the best guess, thank you very much, and that they had won the giveaway before Christmas and wanted to say thank you to our guest at the time, Michelle Cox, for the Henrietta and Inspector Howard book set. It was beautifully packaged. So I'm delighted that our viewers are getting to just have opportunity to be immersed with all of these wonderful books. And we now have another one to add to the mix, as Lori is generously giving away a copy of Murder in Third Position this week. And so if you are logged into YouTube and would like to enter the giveaway, Lori has a special word for you to put in for the drawing. Lori, do you have your magic word?
Ballerina.
Perfect.
Why not?
I definitely would be like, I need to make sure that I spell it right. I was like, how many N's? My spelling is horrible.
This isn't Final Jeopardy. If you get close, we'll take it.
If you get close, we'll definitely take it. So for those of you that would like to enter into the giveaway for a copy of Murder in Third Position, please enter the word ballerina into the YouTube chat. And if you have any questions for us during the broadcast at all, feel free to put those in there as well. Lori, I have to ask, when I am working, mostly when I'm working on my trending topic mysteries, I often have to stop, and if Coco's doing something on social media, I have to like go through the steps to make sure that, I'm like swiping, clicking, tapping, whatever, and like using the right descriptors. When you're writing your on point mysteries, do you ever have to dance through something in order to capture it on the page?
That I don't have to do. It's too ingrained in me. Like even when I hear music, I see it as if I were dancing it, not as if I were looking at it. So my last book takes place during the Nutcracker, actually. I can see that whole thing in my head. There are the things that I have to work out physically, or that I actually have to do, usually have to do with some kind of, usually have to do with the attack part of it. Like, how would you hold someone's arm? How would you, how would you approach doing that? The dance part, I don't, but mostly everything else I do. And it's funny you were talking about swiping, because social media plays a huge role in my fourth book, which isn't out yet. And so I've had to do a lot of research about just things like simple things like burner phones. And then somewhat more difficult things about, can I find a place where you couldn't get a cell phone signal? That to me is always very challenging. And I'm really understanding why people are setting their books in 1975 or 1985, because it is difficult. There is no such thing as being out of reach. Why would
you bring up a really interesting point, because here in Indiana, we have some like national forest areas and some rural areas where internet is either spotty, or if you're in the forest, you don't have it at all. And that's the idea, the national parks and all that kind of bit. But that's an interesting challenge. Somebody writing books set in New York City that they have. I'm lucky because, again, being from Indiana, I can just put my stories in a small town, rural community. It's all farmland, and the cell service is bad and it's plausible. Obviously, in New York City, you don't have that. For storytelling purposes, you don't have that luxury. So that is, that's an interesting point I hadn't thought of.
Thanks.
Yeah, there's also like, especially in cities with like surveillance and all of that good stuff, it's like you're never off the grid. So it makes it technology. I love it. Don't get me wrong. But there's some times where it's like it makes something so it makes it so much more difficult, because there are situations where you're in and you have a question and it's like, okay, if I have a question, I'm going to Google it. But like, how can I actually like not Google it and make an engaging adventure or something along those lines where you're crafting more of a story rather than like sitting in front of your computer and Googling everything that you need to know.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean the issue of like closed caption of cameras being everywhere. I'm very conscious of that in New York City. They're all over Lincoln Center, whether or not you see them. Even in my book that's coming out, the lesson plan for murder. That's the first thing she thinks of. Okay, she can't go to Port Authority and she can't go to Penn Station because she's afraid that facial recognition will pick up who she is. Oh, wait a minute. That's murder in first position. At one point, she wants to make sure that she is not noticed by anyone.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, having the cameras all over the place, having the cameras with facial recognition, all of those things do make it challenging in some ways. It's not so easy to go on the lam these days.
No.
Especially when your face is plastered on a poster in front of Lincoln Center and on the side of a bus. So that did but it also made it fun. Like, okay, how can I outwit this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, Lori, you just mentioned inadvertently your book, Lesson Plan for Murder.
Yeah.
That is coming out this spring. Yes. And can you tell us a little bit about your heroine and, how, where readers will find her when they're introduced to her?
Sure. I had so much fun writing this book. This was really a lot of fun. So my protagonist is, again, from a world that I know well. She's an English teacher. And, well, it's kind of funny, actually. I mean, a lot of it is funny. But all of the tensions, kids and very involved parents and an overbearing administration. And there is a murder of a highly unpopular teacher in the school. And people think it's a suicide, but my character does not. And what she does is without giving too much away, she solves the murder using clues from her favorite books. And every chapter, the title of every chapter is the title of a famous book. And it's also a little bit of a coded clue into how to solve the mystery. Ooh. So that was one that really my love of puzzles just took over for that one. And it was a lot of fun to write. So I'm excited. That one actually, it was my first book. I published with a small publisher then. And the publisher went out of business. And my current publisher, Level Best Books, has picked it up and wants it to be a series. So there'll be at least 3 of those starting this spring. I'm excited about it.
So did you get to revisit your first book then in that process? Did you get to like go back and what did you find that you found yourself making updates to?
Wow, that's such a great question. I think I've learned a lot since I wrote my first book. And so just in terms of the writing, I think I was able to refine the writing of it. But a lot of it is really, it's the same idea. The sense of humor is definitely on the sarcastic side. Mm-hmm. And again, I put my heroine in a rather fraught position personally. So even when we begin, she's a little bit, she has some challenges in her life, but they end up involving murder. And I definitely poke fun at a lot of things. I poke fun at pretty much everything, the entire education system, every single administrator that I've ever had who I didn't like. And for a while, I had one that I really was so terrible and that I disliked so much that at one point I wanted to just get him on the phone and say, stop giving me all this material. You've given me enough for a lifetime. I don't need any more for my books. But now that I'm not teaching anymore, my colleagues do update me on things that are hilarious and sad.
The shenanigans.
Absolutely.
So I have to ask. So what grade level did you teach?
I taught juniors and seniors in high school.
Okay. Part of the reason that I ask is that the story that you're talking with this new project reminds me a lot. There's a new Jane Seymour television series called Harry Wild, and it's on Acorn. And Jane Seymour plays the lead character, Harry, who is a retired college professor who starts solving crimes. And so when you started talking about that, Lori, I thought, oh my God, it's Harry Wild.
They stole it from me.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. What is up with that? Yes. It's such a good show. Of course, Jane Seymour is fantastic. She's one of my favorite actresses. And yes, I saw it. I hope they do another season of it.
Yeah.
And same thing. She sort of approaches it from a literary analysis point of view. So I very much enjoyed that. And I do use that in my book. So
okay. That's so cool.
Lori, what was your favorite book to teach as you were working with juniors and seniors? Which was always like your favorite book to work with them on? If you can pick.
I'm just going to sound like such a nerd when I say this, but it is the truth. Well, I had a few. I absolutely loved teaching Hamlet, and I loved it because the kids also loved it. Mm-hmm. Sounds kind of crazy, but they loved Hamlet and Macbeth. It's so dramatic. It's full of blood. It's like, okay, you're pissed off at your overbearing stepfather who's taken your place in the house and all of that. So there's a lot of just fantastic drama in there. And I would say another book that I really loved teaching was again, this is just going to sound so awful, but it's true. I keep trying to get away from it. I love teaching Moby Dick. And again, it's just a book that sounds like, oh God, I could never read it or it was terrible. It's hilariously funny. It's just so funny. I mean, the thing is, you have to read to the end of these chapters too. But at the end of every one of them, Melville just gives you a really hilarious joke. And it's the best ending in the world. And you got the crazy captain and the guy who doesn't have it and the whale and it's really, I highly recommend it. So those are books that I'm not even saying that I enjoyed teaching them because I felt like they were books that with my students that they were just a hell of a ride. Mm-hmm. So I really like teaching those, especially because nobody thought that they would like it. And why would you think that?
Well, I tell you what, I've tried to read Moby Dick, and failed, I think 3 times now.
It's funny because like I have books like that I've tried to read a couple of times and couldn't quite get, didn't grab me. And then when I read them at the right time in my life, or, I can think of a couple of Dickens books that the first time I picked them up, I was just not happening. I'm not there. And then later, for whatever reason, it struck me. So,
oh, I know what you mean. That speaks to me so much because I remember in high school, when I was a junior for English literature class, we had to read A Tale of Two Cities. And as a junior in high school, I despised that story. It was just, I could go on and on and on. But so then about 10 years ago, I decided, okay, you know what? It was getting close to Christmas time. I'm going to read A Christmas Carol, and I thought, I don't know. This is Dickens. I haven't even tried to read Dickens since it was high school. And I read A Christmas Carol and loved it. And it was just one of those things where, to your point, Lori, that, okay, I think I was older. And it was just, I was in a much better position to appreciate, his style of writing. And I'll admit, I still have not gone back to finish Tale of Two Cities, but man, A Christmas Carol, what a great story.
The end of A Tale of Two Cities, I think I've cried every time.
Really? Okay.
So, yeah, it's got a real nice finish. But yes, I get that. I'm just trying to think if there was anything else that I could. Well, I would say that oftentimes the things that I enjoyed teaching were the things where my students became enthusiastic about it. So, so that was always just very satisfying. And you're not going to reach every single person, but we came pretty close. So
Nice.
I'm trying to think. I think like as I'm asking you this question, I'm thinking like, what was my favorite book that I read in high school? And I don't know so much. I wouldn't call it a favorite, but the books that stayed with me the most were All Quiet on the Western Front, which is just gut wrenching in every aspect, and then Lord of the Flies, which is another one that's just like
I ate
really,
that thing up like there was no tomorrow.
And I think it like kind of speaks to the type of writing that like we can connect with on like such a deep level and how powerful it can be. Because boy, I mean, those are heavy subjects, but like to this day, like those are the books that always come to mind.
When you said that, I thought to myself, too late. That's what my students would have said. But for me as well, it's just a great book and very economical. Boom, 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 boom. Really? Yeah.
And hey, I've got good news. Regina checked in to let us know season 2 of Harry Wild is in production as we speak. So there we go. So on Acorn, Jane Seymour, she's fabulous. Y'all, if you haven't seen it, you're going to love it.
I'm going to have to check that out because I'm in search. I need a new show. Lori, we have almost reached, we're almost at our 10 minutes to the hour mark. Time always flies when we're having fun. So you've got the next Murder in Fourth Position and Lesson Plan for Murder are both coming out this year. Are you up to anything else? I know that's a lot of stuff to have coming out in 1 year. Are you going to conferences? Are you working on new projects? What else does 2023 have in store for you?
Yes, I will be probably at least 2 writing conferences and possibly more. I'll be at Malice in the spring and almost definitely BoucherCon in the fall. And when I was at BoucherCon, which for people in the audience who don't know, it's just a very big conference. It's a big fan conference, and it attracts many, many writers. I don't know how many people go, but I'm sure it's over 1,000 people. I was on a writing panel with several thriller writers and like thriller/mystery writers. And I had already thought to myself, because that I had wanted to, I thought I might try and write something that was more on the suspense side of the mystery genre. And I tried it out with a flash fiction short story, it's called Mirror Image. It's just been published on Women on Writing. And it got such good, thank you. It got such good response that I'm going to try and turn that into a novel. In fact, the people who judge it, one of them is someone I quite admire, who said, this should be a novel. This should be a full length.
Yeah, that's really awesome.
In between writing 2 more books and editing them, I've just decided I'm going to try something totally new. And nice. I don't know if it's going to work out. I don't know if I can do it. I am like my character, but I am a coward. Like I can't even watch anything that's that suspenseful. I don't know how that's going to go down. Like, I mean, no extreme violence, but I'm thinking suspense.
Oh yeah.
As opposed to, no gore. I can't do the gore.
I can't do it either, except in like a scary movie format, and if it's really dark. But I'm very excited about this new project because I love outside of reading mysteries, I love like suspense, psychological suspense. Like that's one of my favorite genres.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, hey, Sarah, speaking of where you're going to be at, what do you got going on for 2023?
Oh, well, thank you very much for asking, JC. I'm currently writing the next Glenmeyer Wynn mystery as we speak. I'm about 14,000 words in and feeling like I have the worst part of writing a book behind me because I always struggle on those opening chapters where you're kind of rehashing things, but in a new way that's engaging and all that good stuff. Um, and I'm also getting ready. I'm super excited for the next trending topic mystery to come out in April. And I thought that I would do a little fun teaser share with everybody so I can stop saying the next trending topic mystery and call it by its name. So if you guys would just bear with me a moment, I'm just going to do a quick little title reveal for our viewers who have joined us here. So enjoy. There it is. Hashtag tag me for murder is coming April 25th. I'm super excited about Coco's next adventure. This one, book one is like a pretty wild ride. I think book two like kicks it up a notch, and Coco and her friends get into a lot more trouble this time around, and I had just such fun writing it. I think it was one of the first books when I turned it in to an editor that I was like, wow, I wrote a good book. Most of the time I hand something in, I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be awful. Like everybody's going to hate it. But like, I really, really love this one. And hopefully that doesn't mean that it's awful. having that feeling. JC, what about you? What do you have going on?
Well, I'm doing something a little different. I'm a big fan of the Malice Domestic Conference, but I'm not able to make it this year. So I'm going to Sleuth Fest in July down in Florida. And I'll be taking my flamingo jacket with me because the flamingo is the official mascot of Sleuth Fest. So looking forward to that. Book two of my record store mysteries will be out later in the spring. My editor has it, and so I don't know exactly when it's going to be out, but sometime before too long. All I'm going to say is that involves a rock and roll legend, and it is currently entitled Concert Hall Hit. So a little kind of double meaning there. And then also I have something super exciting to talk about late 23, 2024, but I still can't officially talk about it yet. So we'll have to
talk about it later.
Yes, exactly. Stay tuned. So yeah. So a great 2023, I think, for all of us.
Yes, most certainly. Yeah. And again, with the Bookish Hour, we've got our wonderful guests that are joining us on the 2nd and 4th Thursdays of the month. Our next episode is going to be with Teresa Trent. That'll be exciting. And Lori, thank you for being here with us this evening. I want to give everybody a chance, if you haven't already entered into the giveaway for Lori's copy of Murder in Third Position. The magic word is ballerina. Make sure that you're logged into your Google account, your YouTube account, however you're able to log in, and put the word ballerina in the chat. We'll be doing the drawing shortly. But before we do that, JC, you want to take us out?
Yes. So for the final segment, we love to talk about what are you reading, what are you watching, what are you consuming. So Sarah, how about you? What do you got some recommendations for us?
One of my, I'm not going to say it's a resolution, but it's a goal that I have this year is to work my way through all of the books that I've downloaded on Audible when I get those panic emails that are like, you're going to lose your credits if you don't download something. Because I've gotten really bad about downloading audiobooks. So I was like, I've got to get through the ones that I've already listened to. So I'm working on Kingdom of Bones by James Rollins. That's part of his Sigma Force series, which I absolutely love. And fun little note, well, it's not really fun, but I guess back when things were getting locked down with COVID, coming and assaulting the world, I had tweeted that I was like, wow, like this really feels like the plot of a James Rollins novel gone horribly wrong. And he liked it and replied, yeah, it kind of feels that way. And I was just like, oh my God. Because I absolutely love his Sigma Force series. So fun. It's like, Robert Langdon meets some military guy. I don't know. Really cool. Love the series. As for what I'm watching, I had a mystery movie weekend. I watched Glass Onion. Very much enjoyed. I watched the movie The Pale Blue Eye, which is kind of blowing up online right now. It's phenomenal. Amazing mystery. It was one of the best mysteries that I've seen in a while. And then I also watched a movie that was called The Meal, which is more of a suspense thriller. And oh my God, it was so good, but so twisted at the same time. So I think it was Netflix, and HBO Max where they are all found.
Super. Lori, how about you?
Well, in keeping with my ambitions to write a suspense novel, I've been reading Carol Goodman, The Sea of Lost Girls, and I enjoy her writing. She is someone who writes suspense novels, and one of the things I like about it is that a lot of her books have a very decidedly, I want to say, a feminist perspective. So she really delves into a lot of really interesting issues in the context of a straight up suspense. And obviously I've really enjoyed The Record Store Reckoning and Too Much to Handle for both of you.
Thank you.
And so far as what I'm watching, I'm going to go to, I'm with the Acorn fans out there. And I just started the second season of Whitstable Pearl, and it takes place in, kind of on the coast in England. And there are class issues, and there's always a very satisfying murder, of course, because what could be more entertaining than that? But they're very the clues and the as always in our genre, really the personal relationships are come for the murder and stay for the people. So yeah, that's where I am.
Cool. I'm about halfway through season 1 of that. Yeah, and it's so much fun.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you, as far as me, first, my younger kiddo got me Dune for Christmas. So I've been reading this. It is the longest book. It's 800 pages. I haven't read a book this long in 10 years. And so I got about halfway through it, and I'm loving it because I read it first when I was in high school, and it's so much better the second time around. But oh my goodness, it's so long. As far as what I've been watching, I just started watching the second season of Miss Scarlet and the Duke on PBS. Ooh. It's a Victorian set mystery in which Miss Scarlet is a single young woman who runs her own detective agency. And the Duke is the local detective inspector who she is friends with. And so that's a lot of fun. And then speaking of Acorn, Lori, my wife and I just finished watching the final couple episodes of season 10 of Doc Martin, in the final season of Doc Martin. And so if you haven't ever seen Doc Martin, it's just a lovely show, oddball characters, a lovely setting with just nice folks. And it's always one of those shows that leaves you just kind of feeling good. So if you haven't checked it out, please do so.
I have to ask before we pull our winner and sign off for the evening, BritBox or Acorn? Because I can't figure out which one I should be doing, or if I just have to do both of them.
I have both, but for some reason I've been really leaning into the Acorn mysteries lately. So yeah.
I have both. BritBox is pretty much specifically, UK television. So, and BritBox is only the place, for example, where you can get all the Agatha Christie, like David Suchet, Poirot, the wonderful actresses who all played Miss Marple and stuff like that. But Acorn has a lot of stuff that's fabulous from like Australia and New Zealand. So yeah, I'm kind of, you got to have both.
You gotta have both. It's Regina says in the chat that both is the way to go as well. So I'm gonna have to do it because one of them, I honestly can't remember why I subscribed to BritBox, because there was like a particular show that I was like, oh, I gotta watch this. But I know that Acorn is like the Miss Fisher movies and mysteries and Murdoch mysteries, which I love. So I guess I got to get Acorn back. Well, thank you very much for clearing that up for me. For our giveaway winner this evening, give us a drum roll, please, as the winner. Once we have announced, if you could just email your mailing address to giveaways@thebookishhour.com so that we can get your copy of Murder in Third Position in the mail. Our winner this evening is the username Corolla. Hopefully,
congrats.
It's KAROLA. Congratulations on your giveaway win this evening. Please go ahead and when you have the time, drop us an email with your mailing address so that Lori can get your book to you. Congratulations. And congrats on the first giveaway of the year of 2023.
Yeah.
Everyone, thank you so much for joining us this evening. We have reached, we're a little bit over our bookish hour, but we're having so much fun that hopefully the time flew by for you guys as fast as it did for us. Lori Robbins, thank you so much for being here. If folks want to stay connected with you, where can they find you?
Well, I'm at lorirobbins.com. Or you can contact me via my Linktree or any social media for Lori Robbins Mysteries, and I will get back to you.
I will say that Lori has really upped her social media game since we have been connected with each other, and absolutely love her posts. They're always very witty, very much, just reminds me so much of your own writing. So I definitely give her a follow. And those of you joining us live tonight, thank you so much for spending your time with us. We look forward to seeing you during our next show on the 27th, the 26th, January 26th with Teresa Trent. Yes. And until then, enjoy and have a wonderful weekend. We will see you in 2 weeks. Happy New Year, everybody. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, everyone.